They keep their people in poverty. Again and again, the Israelis have offered peace on extremely generous terms.
That's a lie. He's lying. They didn't want peace. Hell, Netanyahu was like, nah, we're taking it all. We're taking all the land. That's not true.
You know, Ehud Barak in 2000 offered again and again, 1937, 1947, 2000. The Israelis have wanted to trade peace for land. And they, again and again, the Palestinian leadership has betrayed its own people by refusing to even negotiate about that or refusing to a counteroffer.
So you have people like him. Oh, and let me read what Savvy said. Sorry. Savvy said, here's Robert Kennedy Jr. lying about Palestinians refusing to negotiate peace. If I remember correctly, it was the state of Israel that refused negotiation. The land belongs to Palestinians. Just admit you don't care about Palestinian people. Because if you look at the far right, a lot of the far right, they're embracing Israel and saying, no matter what they do, we're good. This is from, fascist sympathizer Nikki Haley. She says this is not just an attack on Israel. This was an attack on America. She said, finish them, Netanyahu. They should have help to pay for what they've done. This is what Nikki Haley's saying. This is fascist shit. Listen.
But let's step back because I want the American people to kind of take this in for a second. Just imagine that here the Israelis woke up and communities were bombarded. Families were murdered. Women and children were taken hostage, dragged through the streets. The elderly were taken. All of this has happened in front of everyone, on top of thousands of rockets that hit Israel. This should be personal for every woman and man in America. Why? Because when they did this surprise attack, when they took these hostages, when they murdered these families, they were celebrating. And what were they celebrating? They were saying death to Israel, death to America. This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done. But let's step.
So remember what I said about the disproportionate amount of murders that they've done? And yet Nikki Haley wants basically an extermination of other brown people. Just to know, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. That's really, yeah. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. So Nikki Haley's definitely not on the side of other brown people. But Nikki Haley, Hakeem Jeffries, Richie Torres, Barack Obama, what's the difference, right? Here is RFK Jr. siding with Zionist terrorists and lying, of course, on Fox News.
All of us saw the videos on social media of children in cages in Gaza, of Jewish bodies, of teens.
By the way, those kids in cages that he's referring to are actually Israeli soldiers that are actually putting Palestinian kids in cages. Just to let you know.
Teenage girl being abused in front of a crowd and people cheering, of bodies being paraded around in trucks. So to say that Israel is at fault for that is just perverse. And then if you look at the history of the region, anybody who believes that narrative, which is a propaganda narrative, should go look at Prince Bandar bin Sultan's speech in 2020. He was a great champion. He was the head of the Saudi intelligence. He was at all the peace negotiations. He's a huge champion, lifelong champion of the Palestinian people. And what he said again and again, the Palestinians have been betrayed by their leadership. Yasser Arafat died a billionaire. Mahmoud Abbas, the current leader of the Palestinian Authority, is a billionaire. His sons are 100 millionaires. They keep their people in poverty. Again and again, the Israelis have offered peace on extremely generous terms.
That's a lie. He's lying. They didn't want peace. Hell, Netanyahu was like, nah, we're taking it all. We're taking all the land. That's not true.
Ehud Barak in 2000 offered again and again, 1937, 1947, 2000. The Israelis have wanted to trade peace for land. And they, again and again, the Palestinian leadership has betrayed its own people by refusing to even negotiate about that, or refusing to a counteroffer.
So you have people like him. Oh, and let me read what Savvy said. Sorry. Savvy said, here's Robert Kennedy Jr. lying about Palestinians refusing to negotiate peace. If I remember correctly, it was the state of Israel that refused negotiation. The land belongs to Palestinians. Just admit you don't care about Palestinian people. I got some things to say to Tulsi Gabbard, too. Tulsi Gabbard, you wrong. Tulsi Gabbard, this is some Zionist BS. She said the United States must stand with Israel in the face of this terror attack by the Islamist terrorist group Hamas. What about the Zionist terrorist group, Tulsi Gabbard? She continues, she says, this is just the latest example of the greater war being waged by both Sunni and Shia Islamist jihadists throughout the world. There should be a wake-up call to leaders everywhere that Islamist jihadists are the greatest short and long-term threat to safety, security, and freedom of the American people and people throughout the world. Here's the thing. If there's their land, then why in the world are you demonizing them for fighting back? Tulsi Gabbard ain't got no room to talk. Zionists are coming out of the woodwork to defend apartheid genocidal terrorist regime. That's what I said. And I also want to talk to Maxwell Frost, because Maxwell Frost, who's my representative, decided to at first side with the Palestinians, but Maxwell Frost, he switched sides. So I got some things to say to him too. Maxwell Frost, this is your turn. Says at 25 years old, Maxwell Frost stands a chance of becoming the first Gen Z member of Congress. So this was back then. He said, but Palestinian organizers who shared hope for his campaign said they felt betrayed. After he reneged on the pro-Palestinian stance, he pledged to support. So here's what Maxwell Frost said and did.
not us. We have to demand that our leaders see the world through the eyes of the most vulnerable.
So Frost basically turned his back on Palestinian people. Sean Miller, absolutely. My farts have more integrity than these politicians. Absolutely. So yeah, Maxwell Frost, I have no love, no respect for somebody who turns his back on the marginalized. And as an Afro-Latino, you should know better. Same thing for Richie Torres and Hakeem Jeffries. Shame on all of you. Shame on all of you for turning your back on a marginalized people, because you guys know exactly what it's like to be marginalized.